Story 1. On Halloween night, a group of college students decided to explore an abandoned asylum. As they walked through the decaying corridors, they heard strange whispers and footsteps echoing in the darkness. Suddenly, they saw a figure dressed in a white gown, its face contorted into a twisted smile. It was a patient who had died in the asylum years ago, and her spirit had never left. The students tried to run, but the patient floated closer and closer, her laughter echoing in their ears. They realized too late that they had disturbed the spirits of the dead, and now they were paying the price. As they turned a corner, they saw a room filled with medical equipment and torture devices. The patient floated towards them, and they could feel her cold breath on their necks. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the patient vanished, leaving the students trembling in fear. They knew that they had to leave the asylum as soon as possible, but as they made their way through the dark corridors, they realized that they were lost. The asylum seemed to shift and change around them, leading them deeper into the madness. Finally, they stumbled upon a room filled with old medical records. As they searched for a way out, they discovered that the patient who had haunted them had been experimented on by the doctors, subjected to cruel and inhumane treatments until she finally succumbed to madness. With this knowledge, the students were finally able to escape the asylum, but they knew that the spirits of the dead would haunt them forever. They had uncovered a dark history of abuse and torment, and now they could never forget the horrors that they had witnessed. Story 2. It was Halloween night, and the town was filled with costumed revelers wandering the streets. But as the moon rose high in the sky, a sense of unease began to settle over the town. Strange noises could be heard, and shadows seemed to move on their own. In the old abandoned mansion at the edge of town, a group of teenagers dared each other to enter. As they made their way through the dusty rooms, they felt a sense of dread growing within them. And then they heard it, the sound of footsteps echoing in the darkness. As they turned to run, they saw a figure dressed in tattered robes and carrying a scythe. It was the Grim Reaper, and it had come to claim their souls. They ran as fast as they could, but the Reaper was always one step ahead of them. Finally, they found themselves trapped in a room with no escape. The Reaper approached, and they could feel the cold breath of death on their necks. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the Reaper vanished, leaving the teens trembling in fear. From that night on, they never dared to enter the abandoned mansion again, for they knew that the Grim Reaper could come for them at any moment. And the town knew that on Halloween night, the spirits of the dead walked among the living. Story 3. On Halloween night, a group of friends decided to play a game of truth or dare in the woods. As they sat around the campfire, they began to tell spooky stories, each one trying to outdo the others. But as the night wore on, they began to hear strange noises coming from the darkness. They dismissed it as their imagination, but then they saw a figure dressed in a black cloak, its face obscured by a hood. The figure approached them, and one of the friends dared to ask who it was. The figure replied in a raspy voice, "I am the keeper of the forest, and I have come to collect the souls of the unworthy." The friends thought it was just a Halloween prank, but as the figure drew closer, they could see the glint of a blade in its hand. It was a Grim Reaper, and it had come to claim their souls. The friends tried to run, but the Reaper was always one step ahead of them, taunting them with its ominous laughter. They soon realized that they were trapped, and the only way to survive was to confront the Reaper. With shaking hands, one of the friends stepped forward and asked the Reaper what it wanted. The Reaper replied, "I am here to test your courage. Those who are brave enough to face me shall be spared. Those who are not, shall perish." The friends knew they had no choice but to face the Reaper. With each challenge, the Reaper grew more and more menacing, but they managed to pass each one. And then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the Reaper vanished, leaving the friends trembling in fear and relief. From that night on, they knew that the forest was a place of darkness and danger, and that the Reaper could return at any moment to claim their souls. But they also knew that they were strong enough to face any challenge that came their way.